The White House sits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., recognizable worldwide by its neoclassical facade and the distinctive portico that frames nearly every presidential address. Tourists photograph it from behind iron fencing. News cameras broadcast from the North Lawn. It appears in films, on currency, in textbooks. The building functions as shorthand for American executive power itself, a symbol so ubiquitous that its physical reality as a working structure often dissolves into abstraction. But the White House is not a monument. It is a machine. Behind the columned exterior lies a complex operational facility housing approximately 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, 6 levels of structured space, 412 doors, 147 windows, 28 fireplaces, 8 staircases, and 3 elevators. The building occupies roughly 55,000 square feet of floor space across its main residence, while the east and west wings add another 80,000 square feet of workspace. Beneath the visible structure runs a network of basements, sub-basements, utility tunnels, and secure corridors that extend the functional footprint far beyond what appears above ground. The residence portion alone requires a permanent staff of approximately 96 people to maintain daily operations, not counting security, communications, or policy personnel. This is not a story about presidencies or political decisions. This is about the engineering required to sustain a 224-year-old building as both a private residence and a working headquarters, updated continuously to meet modern operational demands without erasing its historical shell. The original structure, designed by Irish-born architect James Hoban and constructed between 1792 and 1800, was built using Aquia Creek sandstone quarried from Virginia. The exterior walls were painted white, using a lime-based whitewash to protect the porous stone from weathering. The building Hoban delivered was far smaller than what exists today. The original footprint measured approximately 170 feet wide by 85 feet deep, containing only the central block now called the executive residence. There were no wings, no Oval Office, no Situation Room. John Adams moved in before construction finished. The plaster was still wet. Several rooms lacked staircases. Abigail Adams hung laundry in the unfinished East Room because it was the only space large enough. The building leaked. Fireplaces smoked. The structure settled unevenly into the marshy ground along the Potomac Basin. By 1814, British forces set the building ablaze during the War of 1812, destroying most of the interior. Only a sudden rainstorm prevented total collapse. James Hoban returned to supervise reconstruction, which took until 1817. The exterior walls survived, scorched but structurally sound. Workers rebuilt the interior from charred timber and rubble, reusing what remained of the original sandstone. Throughout the 19th century, occupants modified the building incrementally. Thomas Jefferson added exterior colonnades. James Monroe furnished rooms with French Empire pieces purchased after the fire. Andrew Jackson installed running water in 1833, piped from a spring roughly a mile and a half away. Gas lighting arrived in 1848 under James K. Polk, replacing candles and oil lamps. Benjamin Harrison had electricity installed in 1891, though he reportedly feared electrocution and often asked staff to operate the switches. None of these additions addressed the fundamental problem. The building was never designed to function as both a residence and the nerve center of a growing federal bureaucracy. Presidential staff worked in the same rooms where the first family slept. State dinners occurred in spaces that doubled as offices. Visitors wandered freely through residential hallways. Theodore Roosevelt's 6 children famously roller skated through the corridors, disrupting official meetings. In 1902, Roosevelt commissioned McKim, Meade, and White to execute the first major expansion. the architectural firm built the West Wing as a separate structure connected by a colonnade, removing executive offices from the main residence entirely. They also excavated and expanded the basement levels, installing new boiler systems, electrical infrastructure, and storage vaults. The renovation cost approximately $475,600, equivalent to roughly $16 million today. Calvin Coolidge added the third floor in 1927, converting underutilized attic space into bedrooms and storage. The modification required reinforcing the roof structure with steel beams hidden inside the original timber framework. Workers completed the project in 8 months, while the Coolidge family remained in residence, navigating around construction dust and temporary partitions. But by 1948, the building was failing. Load-bearing walls had developed cracks. Floors sagged visibly. A piano leg punched through the ceiling of the family dining room into Harry Truman's study above. Engineering surveys revealed that decades of incremental additions had overloaded the original structure. The sandstone walls were still sound, but the interior timber framing was collapsing under its own weight. Truman evacuated the building. Engineers considered demolition. Instead, they gutted it. Between 1948 and 1952, workers removed everything inside the exterior walls, leaving only the sandstone shell standing. They excavated 2 additional sub-basement levels, poured a reinforced concrete foundation extending down to bedrock, and erected an internal steel skeleton independent of the historic walls. The interior was rebuilt room by room using fireproof materials, modern wiring, updated plumbing, and climate control systems. The project cost $5.7 million, approximately $71 million today. The Truman reconstruction created the structural template that still exists. The visible building is historic. The internal framework is mid-century engineering. The second level of the executive residence contains the private living quarters, occupying the entire floor. This is not ceremonial space. The president and first family inhabit approximately 16 rooms here, including bedrooms, sitting rooms, a kitchen, and a dining area. The layout mirrors a large private home, though one embedded inside a fortified government facility. Harry Truman described it as living above the store. The Lincoln bedroom, despite its name, functions primarily as a guest room. Abraham Lincoln used the space as an office, signing the Emancipation Proclamation at a desk near the south-facing windows. The first floor below houses the state rooms, the public face of the residence where diplomatic receptions, state dinners, and ceremonial events occur. The East Room, the largest space in the house at roughly 80 by 37 feet, accommodates up to 300 guests. 7 presidents have lain in state here. The room contains no permanent furniture. Everything is staged per event. Gilbert Stuart's full-length portrait of George Washington hangs on the east wall, the only object Dolly Madison saved when British troops approached in 1814. The painting is the sole artifact remaining from the original furnishings. Adjacent to the East Room sits the Green Room, the Blue Room, and the Red Room, named for their dominant color schemes established during the Monroe administration. Each functions as a formal parlor, furnished with period pieces dating primarily from the late 18th and early 19th centuries. The Blue Room, an oval-shaped space, serves as the principal reception room where presidents greet guests during official functions. The curvature of the walls required custom-built furniture. The room's shape influenced the later design of the Oval Office, constructed in 1909 during William Howard Taft's administration. The state dining room occupies the northwest corner of the first floor, seating up to 140 guests at a single long table or multiple round configurations. The room's dimensions, approximately 48 by 36 feet, were enlarged during Theodore Roosevelt's 1902 renovation by eliminating a structural wall and incorporating adjacent space. A marble mantelpiece carved with a quotation from John Adams dominates the north wall. I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and on all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof. Franklin Roosevelt had the inscription carved into the stone in 1945. Below the state floor lies the ground floor, a semi-basement level originally used entirely for storage and mechanical systems. The 1902 Roosevelt renovation converted portions into usable space, adding the diplomatic reception room, the China room, and the library. The diplomatic reception room functions as the formal southern entrance, where the president receives ambassadors presenting credentials. The room is oval, mirroring the blue room directly above it. During Franklin Roosevelt's administration, the space served as the broadcast location for his fireside chats. Radio engineers ran cables through the floor from equipment positioned in the basement below. Beneath the ground floor, 2 basement levels house the operational infrastructure invisible to visitors. The first basement contains the main kitchen, which operates as a commercial facility capable of producing meals for hundreds simultaneously. Industrial ovens, walk-in refrigerators, and prep stations occupy a space larger than most restaurant kitchens. During state dinners, a team of up to 25 chefs and servers works in shifts, coordinating with butlers who transport finished courses via service elevators and staircases concealed within the walls. The second sub-basement, added during the Truman reconstruction, contains building systems, electrical panels, HVAC equipment, water heaters, and backup generators. The White House operates on multiple redundant power systems. Grid power enters through underground lines from 2 separate substations. If both fail, diesel generators activate automatically, sized to power critical systems indefinitely. Fuel storage tanks buried beneath the north lawn hold enough diesel for approximately 1 week of continuous operation. Communications infrastructure occupies dedicated spaces across multiple levels. Fiber optic cables run through conduits installed during a 1990s-era upgrade, connecting to redundant server rooms maintained at constant temperature and humidity. The building functions as a network node, linked via secure lines to the Pentagon, the State Department, and intelligence agencies. During the Kennedy administration, technicians installed dedicated hotlines in the West Wing basement. The Moscow-Washington hotline, contrary to popular imagery, was never a red telephone but a teletype terminal, later upgraded to a fax machine, then encrypted email. The West Wing, constructed as a separate structure in 1902 and rebuilt in 1934 after a fire, contains the working offices of the president's immediate staff. The Oval Office occupies the southeast corner, positioned to receive maximum natural light through 3 large south-facing windows. The room measures approximately 35 by 29 feet. Its distinctive shape originated during the 1909 Taft expansion, when architect Nathan Wyeth designed the space to echo the Blue Room's oval form. The ceiling rises to 18 feet, creating vertical space that prevents the room from feeling confined, despite its relatively modest footprint. Beneath the West Wing lies the Situation Room, constructed in 1961 following the Bay of Pigs invasion. John F. Kennedy ordered the creation of a dedicated crisis management center after communication failures during the operation. Workers excavated space in the existing West Wing basement, installing a 5,000-square-foot secure facility equipped with encrypted communication links, video conferencing systems, and workspace for intelligence analysts. The original Situation Room functioned until 2006, when it was gutted and rebuilt with updated technology, expanding to include multiple conference rooms and watch stations. The East Wing, added in 1942, houses the office of the First Lady, the White House Social Secretary, and the Visitor's Office. The structure also contains the entrance tunnel used by most visitors entering the complex for tours. During World War II, the basement level was expanded to include a bomb shelter, designed to protect occupants during air raids that never materialized on American soil. The physical security apparatus surrounding the White House extends far beyond the visible fence line. The current perimeter fencing, installed in phases between 2015 and 2021, stands 13 feet tall, constructed from anti-ram steel bollards buried 6 feet into concrete footings. The older fence, installed in the 1960s, stood only 7 feet 6 inches and proved insufficient against multiple intrusion attempts. Engineers designed the replacement system to stop a vehicle traveling at 50 miles per hour, using bollards spaced close enough to prevent human passage but wide enough to avoid creating a visual barrier that would obscure the building entirely. Beneath the north lawn, a tunnel network connects the White House to the Treasury Building, the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, and other nearby structures. Some tunnels date to the Civil War era, dug as utility conduits. Others were added during the Cold War as evacuation routes. The exact layout remains classified, but construction records indicate at least 3 separate tunnel systems installed during different decades, each using distinct engineering methods reflecting the technology available at the time. The roof structure, invisible from ground level, contains multiple layers of security and communications equipment. Antennas, satellite dishes, and air defense sensors occupy platforms built onto reinforced sections of the roof deck. During the 1990s, engineers installed a portable air defense system capable of being deployed in minutes, though whether it remains active is not publicly confirmed. The roof also houses HVAC equipment for the upper floors, requiring regular crane access for maintenance and replacement, a logistical challenge given the restricted airspace above the building. Airspace restrictions around the White House create a permanent no-fly zone extending roughly 15 nautical miles in radius, designated as Special Flight Rules Area P56. The restriction, formalized after the September 11th attacks, prohibits all aircraft except those explicitly authorized by the FAA and Secret Service. Enforcement involves radar tracking, radio communication, and interception protocols coordinated between multiple agencies. Unauthorized aircraft that enter the zone trigger immediate response, including scrambled fighter jets from Joint Base Andrews. Climate control inside the building operates through a centralized system installed during the Truman reconstruction and updated incrementally. The HVAC system must maintain precise temperature and humidity levels to protect historic furnishings, artwork, and documents while providing comfort across 132 rooms with varying occupancy levels. Different zones operate on independent controls. The private quarters can be adjusted separately from the staterooms, which often host hundreds of guests generating significant body heat. Water supply enters the complex through municipal lines, but the building also maintains independent storage tanks and filtration systems installed after concerns about contamination arose during the Reagan administration. The water undergoes testing at multiple points before reaching taps and showers. Wastewater exits through dedicated sewer lines separate from the municipal system, preventing backflow and ensuring that sensitive materials flushed or drained cannot be accessed externally. Fire suppression systems include both traditional sprinklers and specialized equipment designed to protect irreplaceable artifacts. The Vermeil Room and the China Room, which house collections of valuable historical objects, use gas-based suppression systems that displace oxygen without water damage. These systems activate automatically when smoke detectors trigger, sealing the room and flooding it with inert gas that extinguishes flames while leaving delicate objects intact. The paint on the exterior walls is not simply white. The formula has evolved over 2 centuries, beginning with lime-based whitewash applied to protect the original sandstone. Modern coatings use elastomeric paint, a flexible material that expands and contracts with temperature changes without cracking. The entire exterior requires repainting approximately every 4 to 6 years, a process that takes months and costs roughly $600,000. Workers apply multiple coats, using scaffolding and lifts to access upper sections while maintaining the building's operational status. Inside, The walls display artwork borrowed from museums, private collections, and the White House's own permanent collection. Each piece is cataloged, insured, and monitored. Lighting systems use LEDs calibrated to minimize ultraviolet exposure, which degrades pigments over time. Temperature and humidity. Sensors track environmental conditions continuously. If readings deviate beyond safe parameters, alarms notify curators who can adjust climate controls or relocate vulnerable pieces. The floor in the entrance hall is laid with Tennessee marble, installed during a 1950s update. The stone came from the same quarry that supplied material for the National Gallery of Art, chosen for its durability and uniform color. Workers cut each slab to precise dimensions, polishing the surface to a mirror finish that requires daily maintenance. Scratches from furniture, heel marks, and general wear accumulate quickly given the volume of foot traffic. Maintenance staff polish the floors nightly using industrial buffing equipment. Furniture throughout the staterooms includes pieces dating to the Monroe, Lincoln, and Grant administrations, mixed with reproductions crafted by contemporary artisans. Original pieces undergo regular conservation, sometimes requiring disassembly and reconstruction to address wood rot, insect damage, or structural failure. The White House employs a full-time curator and conservation staff who work in dedicated workshops located in the sub-basement, using hand tools and period-appropriate techniques to preserve authenticity. The building's technology infrastructure coexists awkwardly with its historic architecture. Fiber optic cables run through 19th century walls. Ethernet ports are installed in baseboards beneath 18th century furniture. Wireless access points hide inside ventilation grills. Every technological upgrade requires balancing modern needs against preservation standards that prohibit irreversible modifications to historic fabric. The White House operates as a self-contained facility designed to function independently during emergencies. Backup power systems can sustain critical operations for extended periods. Food storage in basement-level pantries and freezers maintain supplies sufficient for several weeks. Communications equipment provides redundant pathways to government agencies, military commands, and allied nations. The building is engineered to endure scenarios ranging from power grid failures to coordinated attacks, though many specific capabilities remain classified. During the Kennedy administration, workers installed a dedicated emergency operations center in the basement of the East Wing, separate from the West Wing Situation Room. The facility included dormitories, medical supplies, and communication equipment designed to support continuity of government functions. Later administrations expanded these capabilities, adding shielded rooms resistant to electromagnetic pulses and upgrading ventilation systems to filter chemical and biological contaminants. The Secret Service maintains a command post in sites inside the building, monitoring security feeds from hundreds of cameras positioned throughout the complex and surrounding blocks. Agents rotate through shifts, watching screens that display real-time footage from the perimeter, the roof, interior hallways, and entry points. Motion sensors, pressure plates, and infrared detectors supplement visual surveillance, creating overlapping layers of detection that trigger alerts when breached. Maintenance of the building never stops. A permanent staff works around presidential schedules, conducting repairs during overnight hours or when the first family travels. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, painters, and HVAC technicians operate from workshops in the sub-basement, responding to issues that arise daily in a structure subjected to constant use. A single dinner for 200 guests generates wear equivalent to months of normal residential occupation. The Rose Garden, positioned outside the Oval Office along the West Colonnade, occupies roughly an eighth of an acre. The garden was established in 1913 under Ellen Wilson and redesigned in 1962 by horticulturist Bunny Mellon at Jacqueline Kennedy's request. The design emphasizes simplicity, a central lawn bordered by flower beds, crabapple trees at each corner, and a limestone walkway. The National Park Service maintains the garden, replanting seasonal flowers multiple times annually and managing the turf to withstand foot traffic from events held on the lawn. The South Lawn, significantly larger at approximately 18 acres, serves as the landing zone for Marine One, the presidential helicopter. The grass must support the weight of the aircraft without rutting, requiring a specialized turf blend and soil compaction engineering. Groundskeepers aerate, fertilize, and oversee irrigation systems that deliver precise water volumes based on weather conditions. The lawn also hosts the annual Easter egg roll, an event that draws tens of thousands of visitors and requires weeks of preparation and post-event restoration. White House tours operate year-round, allowing approximately 6,000 visitors per week to walk through portions of the ground floor and state floor. The tours follow a fixed route designed to minimize wear on sensitive areas while providing access to historically significant rooms. Visitors enter through the East Wing, pass through security screening, and proceed along a predetermined path that concludes at the north. Portico. The entire visit lasts roughly 30 to 45 minutes. Managing visitor flow requires logistical coordination. Tour groups are scheduled in 15-minute intervals to prevent crowding. Velvet ropes and stanchions guide movement, keeping visitors away from walls and furniture. Secret Service agents and volunteer docents monitor behavior, answering questions while ensuring that no one touches artifacts or deviates from the route. Cameras record every tour, with footage reviewed if incidents occur. The building's symbolic weight often overshadows its operational complexity. News coverage focuses on policy decisions, ceremonies, and political drama, rarely acknowledging the infrastructure required to sustain those activities. Yet every speech delivered from the East Room depends on functional microphones, lighting, and climate control. Every state dinner relies on industrial kitchens, trained staff, and meticulously maintained equipment. Every secure phone call routes through encrypted systems housed in shielded server rooms. The White House has survived fire, reconstruction, technological upheaval, and 2 centuries of continuous use. The sandstone walls that James Hoban erected still stand, though everything inside has been replaced, upgraded, or reinforced. The building is simultaneously a museum preserving 18th century design and a modern facility equipped with 21st century technology. It functions as a residence, an office, a ceremonial venue, and a fortified command center, all within the same footprint. What exists at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is not a single building, but layers of buildings, each generation adding systems and structures while preserving the visible shell. The machine beneath the symbol operates continuously, staffed by engineers, curators, agents, chefs, gardeners, and technicians, whose work ensures that the symbolic facade remains functional. The White House endures not because it is sacred, but because it is maintained. Every stone cleaned, every wire replaced, every system upgraded represents a decision to preserve operational capacity alongside historical continuity. The building stands because people keep it standing, solving problems that arise from age, use, and the relentless demands placed on a structure never designed for its current role. It remains what it has always been, a house pressed into service far beyond its original intent, adapted repeatedly to meet needs its builders could not have imagined.